As always, got to do a sound check. Actually, where's the view on YouTube button? Where is it? First off, I do want to say, well, hold on. Let's check the sound first. Don't get ahead of yourself, Michael. Perfect. All right. So first off, I would like to say yes, I am late today. I took a little bit of a longer walk, so that pushed things a little bit back, and I wanted to make sure I ate and thought about what I'm going to be doing here tonight. So we'll be continuing on with our bash scripting. I do want to get some other stuff out of the way first. So as I said in the last stream, I set up Hyper-V. I set up a VM on Hyper-V. I will be going through the first portion of this video or first portion of this stream here, going through getting connected to it and making sure that everything looks good, or getting it set up, I should say. So anybody listening to the playback, hey, listen, thanks for joining. For those that are going to be joining the live stream at some point, thank you for joining, even though I am completely late. So, all right, let's get some windows adjusted here. All right, so we got our VM set up. It's a Ubuntu VM using Ubuntu Minimal install. The only package that I really installed out here, besides the bare bones base level operating system, is OpenSSH, so that I can actually connect to it. Hopefully I can, let me see if I can make this bigger here. Nope, that doesn't help. Sorry for the small screen, for the print on the screen, but it is what it is for now. And I will be connecting to it via Termius using SSH. So this is all set up. What I've done here is I didn't want to go ahead and I wanted to show you guys doing the installs. This is nothing that you haven't seen before, I would say, but I wanted to go through and see if there's any nuggets that we can actually reveal, or any information I can give you guys when dealing with this type of stuff. All right, so I've logged in as the main user, and then I've gone to the root an interactive root shell. So now I can actually go ahead and do all the commands without having to do sudo or anything like that. So with that being said, that's all done. I've done the IP command. I can see my IP address on the local network is 28.30. So we don't really need to do much in here anymore. That's really it. Once you get it set up, I mean, there's not much you have to do on the system itself. I did upgrade to the latest LTS version, which is 20.04.2. So now let's minimize that. All right, so this will be the first time connecting to it with Termius. What you're usually going to get is an RSA fingerprint and seeing if this one is valid or not, or you wish to continue in terms of its validity. What you can do is just go ahead and add and continue, or just continue, and then we'll add it to it. But in this case, I want to add and continue because I don't want to see this prompt again. And one thing about Termius is you can actually save these passwords if you wanted to. So password. All right, so now I can increase the font on the screen so you all can see. And sit back a little bit. You can do things like testing to make sure it has some type of internet connectivity. Hopefully, at some point. Oh, wow, that's not good. And sometimes what you want to do is actually just test that it can actually ping an actual outside address. Now, this might be good for us in terms of troubleshooting what's going on, because you do coding, but then you also have to deal with system setups. You also have to understand how systems work, which is why I'm going off of that. I try to do more live coding on these streams, but I end up talking a lot. So hopefully we can get through this and actually get to some coding tonight. And I'll show you how to download a Git repository. All right, so what I want to do, sudo-i at search git All right, cool. So apt works, so that means name resolution should work to a certain degree. It might be that google.com is not allowing me to, or google.com itself is not resolving for one reason or another. Um, that can be fixed by having multiple name servers and making sure that those name servers are available for you. Here. All right. So in this case, I am going to be looking at our script here. So one thing we did is we did apt update and nano build essentials git. All right, so what we're going to do, all right, we're going to do that again. All right, so I just copied those 3 commands in there. So that's real quick. And this is what our script does for us, or that our script will do for us on base systems, is that it'll install these dependencies and do any upgrades to the system, make sure everything's good. This is nice to where you can drop it into systems that actually spin up, that are not cloned or anything like that, but they're just bare metal systems. And maybe you want to spin up, like, maybe something based off a certain profile or something like that. There's a myriad of ways that you can do that. In my case, I'm going to be using Bash script for some of my systems, because they aren't always the same. They aren't always in the same environment or anything else like that. And I can just take the script, dump it wherever I need to, and go from there. Something like this will work on Debian-based systems quite well. So that would be even your Raspberry Pi, Debian, Ubuntu, and even like things like, I think Mint. I think Mint is Debian-based as well. All right, so this is what I did, the app update, do all the upgrades, and then and use the -y, so it won't ask me yes or no. It'll just go ahead and do it, and that makes it nicer, or it makes it scriptable to where you don't are actually more unattended. One thing that I did mess up on, and I wanted to make sure. Okay, so it looks like that's done. And I don't think. Let's see if it did this last one. One thing I've messed up on continuously, and I want to make that correction at the beginning of the stream here, is saying procedural and asynchronous. The opposite of asynchronous is synchronous. So that means things going in order. I got that confused because you look at procedural programming and it's kind of like a little bit synonymous. So my bad on that. If you're going to do things one after the other, especially when I was dealing with the PowerShell script in the last stream and the stream before that, that is synchronous. That is not asynchronous, or that is not procedural. That is synchronous, one after the other. You want these things to actually happen. So when you execute something, you're going to wait for the response. It is not asynchronous, meaning that it does not wait for the response. It goes to the next thing. So wanted to make that correction because I sounded like a complete bozo, I'm sure. And there's probably a couple people that are like, what the hell is he talking about? So wanted to put that out there. All right, so we're going to go ahead and install our packages that we need. And that's a lot of stuff. So this might take a while. Oof, that is a lot of stuff. But we have to go through this. While that is happening, let's go over to our old VM here, or other VM, and let's look at that. So one of the things that I did is I started to add some of these things, some templates to this. So I have in file, or in script templates, and then I also have static templates where I will inject a certain information. So the reason why I did it like that is this is a little bit shorter, but then I have some files that are extremely long, and I only need to replace like 2 or 3 strings. And we did that in a pretty cool old school way. You can use command line editor, or command line tools such as sed or awk to do things like that, to where you can actually take a string in a file and then change that file based off of any type of regular expressions, or if it matches if it matches a condition. So sed is really good for stuff like that. Now for smaller files where I had to do a couple different changes, what I did is like my PM2. I use PM2 to handle all my processes. I think it's Process Manager 2 or something like that. That's the only thing I can think of. But it's a Node.js, or it's a Node, or a JavaScript or Node package. And what it allows you to do is actually run your systems. You start your system as even if you restart your system or anything like that, it will start from scratch, or it'll start back up and pretty much run your process for you. And then also, if any of your processes error out or have any problems, it can deal with logging and then also deal with restarting of those processes as well. And even give you a little bit more insight onto what's happening with your process. And then even do things like clustering as well. So if you have multiple processors, it can actually spin up one node process per processor. And then if it deals with I guess you would say not concurrency, but it deals with what is that thing called again? Redundancy. So, for instance, if one of your processes is down or busy doing something or bogged down, it can actually send it to another process, and that's redundancy and load balancing is a better is an even better way of describing that. So in my function, things like project name get filled in and everything like that. This basically prompts us, gives us a whole bunch of prompts here, and you can see there's quite a bit of difference in compared to what if you guys have been watching the GitHub repo, go ahead and you can follow on that GitHub repo if you ever need to, and then you can see all the progress that I'm making on that. But with that GitHub repo, I've done quite a bit in terms of putting in some of these different prompts, and these prompts having actual conditional or logic statements put in them so that I can actually get what I need, get it right the first time without getting bad data. We talked about that last stream where Ronald was talking about we were talking about sanitizing data and then how important it is to sanitize your data so you can actually prevent any back-end attacks to your database or your back-end processes by having any type of code injection or anything else like that. So one thing that we went over is adding conditionals where necessary to make sure that you're getting the right information. Also, I talk about all the time is like, attributing your sources. I always do that in my code, even if it's just over and over again. But this is Bash, and it's not like the language that I know the most. And even with Node.js, that is something that I do go over and I research quite a bit. And there's just so much I learn on a regular basis. Let's check on this process here. Okay, that's actually finished. Good. All right, but we'll continue to go over this. So the same thing here. This is to generate our core.js file. So this core.js file, I've commented out quite a bit. What this does will actually do, if you do an S and then /, it'll substitute whatever is between the first backslash markers. Then you have to do things like escape certain strings. So in my case, I have a core.js file that has core vars in it. And let's go ahead and look at that file to cd opt. This is node boilerplate. Nano. So I have a folder called static files. These are static files where there's little to no changes to them. And where there are changes that are needed, I actually have insertion points. And those insertion points are just words in this case. So I might have insertion point and then insertion point 0, insertion point 1, so on and so forth. So in my case, I just dump all these files. So even readmes will be in here eventually. Possibly, we'll see. And cronjob JS. So I actually have something in my usually in my applications where I want certain jobs to run on a regular time or a regular interval. So I use a package called cronjob JS, which is really nice. And that works actually really well because then I don't have to rely on cron tab for the local system, which is pretty much the same on most Linux-based Linux flavors. So let's go to core.js here. And with core.js, everything else is pretty much static. There's not much that I have to change in here. I have core functions, I have core variables, and all these things I use quite a bit in terms of like get random number, random caps, insert special characters, and things like that. So I try to keep it pretty bare bones, and then I can add as I need to as the project requires. Even creating a unique identifier and doing it via the specs. There's things that actually do that. There's functions that are actually out there, and I got my sources here as well. So I can even change that where it's just like, okay, I'm being OCD. All right, so. But this will make sure that, hey, listen, if there's any reason that I have to, this is good for you too. I like to attribute sources. It may not be good for production code or in some cases, but I like to attribute sources because then I can go back if I need to see what that source suggested for maybe a problem that I might have with that code in the future, especially with something like Stack Overflow. It works very well in terms of having a repository of answers and questions and answers. I like to consider it somewhat like a Library of Alexandria or something like that, where you have all the information from all from all throughout the world centered in one place to where people can come read and get that information and go from there and improve on it where needed. So I have all my core functions. Now here I have core vars. Now with core vars, it's a what's it called, a JSON object. There are some things that are assumed, like there's going to be something after this. So there is something after this, and I will actually, and you can end in some languages, they're a little bit more strict about JSON objects and how they're structured. So for instance, in some languages or even some APIs, if your JSON object is not valid, it will spit back out an error. For instance, I work with ClickUp. If you have a trailing apostrophe or sorry, a trailing comma of any sort, and there is no information after it, and that's the last object in the JSON object itself, it will spit back invalid JSON object. So be careful of that. The best way I can say it is just always write the JSON object properly. Plain and simple. Don't do shortcuts. Don't do all this other stuff. Even with JavaScript, I always end my lines with a semicolon. Always. That's just how it is. Deal with it. If you don't like it, okay, no problem. But if something happens with your code because you don't have that semicolon, you're gonna have to deal with it then. And that doesn't happen too often from what I've seen. All right, so I have my insertion point. So what set is going to do is actually read this file. So I read this file in right here. And then it's going to replace it with this string here. Right, so it's going to replace it with this string here. I have double quotes at the end of this string, or either end of this string, and it's going to go through the entire file. Wherever it sees insertion point, it's going to put this string in, which is why you want to have a unique name for something like this. And what we're going to be doing, this is just for testing right here, so this script is still in testing. But what this will do is if I do the -I and -E, I forgot what -E means. I actually have to look that up. Let's just go look that up right now. Save that, and then sed dash hoop. Yeah, that's it. I said that wrong. -E, add script to command to be executed. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's kind of weird. I really probably don't need that. All right, so -I, what it'll do is it'll actually write that contents to the file as opposed to outputting that file to standard output. Instead of outputting that file to standard output, it'll actually write it to that file so that you don't have to copy and paste the response or do a greater than symbol and then into that same file to write it to that file or overwrite that file. But it does everything in line. But I have that uncommented right now. All right, so that does that, and then here I just have a main just a template of a function to generate stuff, so I'm not too worried about that. I still have my test function where I test a little bit of code at a time. So this helps me in terms of like not having to go through multiple prompts. One thing you probably want to do is actually have some sort of test function or way of testing your functions, maybe a JSON object that is standard, maybe even update that JSON object every so often so that you can actually test a new standard, new functionality or features that you add. one thing I do is I add, like this test function, and then I can test little bits of code. So in this case, what I was testing is enter the application's production port number, and then enter the application's development port number. Now, what you'll see is the difference in the conditional here for this while loop. So it says while add port or add prod or app prod port equals nothing, or is greater than or equal to 65 or 65,536. I believe it's a 16-bit number. And if you're dealing with subnetting, you'll understand that too a little bit with that. Like it doesn't go up to 36, but even though that's like from 0 to the last number, but it goes up to 35. So what I'm saying is actually TCP ports, I believe the max is about 65,000. So you don't want to put in, I don't want a user to put in alphanumeric characters. So as you can see, it only allows for numeric characters. But I don't want them to put in alphanumeric characters. I don't want them to put in blank, and I don't want them to. Their limit in terms of the number that they can put in is up to 6,000 or 65,535. So if it's greater than or equal to this number, meaning if it's greater than or equal to that number, then it's out of there. You can't actually put it in. It'll prompt you to enter a valid port number. Now, if it's anything less than that, all the way up to 65,535, which is a valid port number, a valid TCP/IP port number, I believe, then it should go all the way up to that point and stop. It can't go to 36, can't go to 35 and a half. And as you can see, it only allows you to put in like pretty much whole numbers at that point. Now, what you'll see is that gets copied, and because we already did all the sanity checks for app prod port number, now we do those same sanity checks for app dev port number, but then we also say that its app dev port number cannot equal app prod port number. So we can't have the same port numbers for your dev and your app. Your dev and your production. That is something that I do. If I ever put my application into a development mode of some sort, I want it to run on a different port number. Maybe I have my same code and I have a production copy of it running on the proper port number, but then I want to do some other work on the development side or something like that, or spin up a new process. Then I have a dedicated port that is for my development. So after that, it's just kind of rinse and repeat with the port numbers. So I tested that code, and once that was tested, let's go full screen here. So once that was tested, and I'm using Screen along with Termius. So Termius is my client that you see that I'm using right now, and this is not. I don't think this is the default colorway for it, or the default theme to it. But I use Termius, and then in Termius I use Screen, and that allows me to split up different screens. So in that case, I did Control A, Shift S to split the screen horizontally, and then if I want to go ahead and do anything and get out of that screen mode or just only have one screen, I press Control A, Shift Q, and then that pretty much closes all other screens that are on the window and just gives me that single screen there that I can work in and out of. So this kind of looks kind of pretty. I like it. But with this, I can, I have everything pretty much shown. I pretty much commented out here where I got the information, what a function does, and what is expected to happen. In some cases, what you'll see is I have my different hints here. So valid chars, which will be numbers, give me an example and what it defaults to and how that code works. So let's actually look at that code there. So if your base directory and the input that you put in is nothing, it will default to opt. And that's just something nice where you can just press enter, and then you press like 1, 2, 3, 4, enter, 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 and then everything goes from there because you have defaults, especially if it's on a new system where nothing else is on there. And then, for instance, default variable if blank, we do it again. So if base directory right? If you put in a directory where you just put an opt or something like that, and maybe you're not in that directory, actually, if you put an opt, then it should not actually see that as a valid directory. Now, I haven't tested, like, for instance, if I'm in the opt folder or if I'm in the root folder and I'm running this, you can't test for everything. And then also some things, it's like, why would you be running this script from there? You're asking for problems, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't test for it. But I ain't gonna test for it because I'm just not gonna run it in there. So in this case, I'm seeing if this directory actually exists. If it doesn't exist or it's not an actual directory, by doing this here, so it's like not D. And this is a way in terms of Bash to actually test if it's not a directory. I think like -F is like if you want to test for a file, and then there's a couple other triggers that you can actually look for Bash that allows you to actually test for certain things in the operating system itself. So while it is not a directory, keep on asking for a valid directory. Then also give the person an option, and this is where you copy and paste a little bit of code. Sometimes you have to do that with certain certain languages. This is a more simple language. If anything, what I probably could do is actually convert this to a function and then it keep on doing the same thing. But sometimes, you're separating things and making them reusable, and it just doesn't really need all that when you can just simply do this. Now, maybe we can go back and refactor this script, cut down on the lines that are in the script. But in some cases, that could just like, okay, this goes here, that connects to here, that does this. And it's like, no, just put it there. Like it's like default variable is blank. Boom, there you go. And then done for that loop. And then from here, uh, this is where I put in my untested code blocks. And this is where I actually, start generating all these different files and things like that. And I can actually echo those out into what these things will do, or what these functions will do, is echo those out into standard output. And eventually what you can do is say, since it anchors it out into standard output, you can have that echo into a file. Oops, sorry, it's not Linux, a file, right? So you can have it do that eventually. And that's where we want this to go. Okay. And then at the very end, we execute the pretty much the master function, if you will. It executes all that stuff and does everything that it needs to, and then goes from there. So with that being said and done, actually, let's cancel. What did I do? That was a change. Oh, that was it. What the hell did I just do? Weird. I guess I just found a new key combination. That's kind of crazy. I just erased everything in there. All right. What the hell? Sorry. Getting a phone call. Should I answer that? 10:30. Guys, give me a sec. Oh, no. I'm not answering that right now. Sorry about that. I don't usually keep my ringer on my phone, so that surprised me a little bit, and I thought that speaker was charging. And that person, I don't really need to talk to you right now. Not that they're a bad person, I just don't feel like talking to them. All right, cool. So we got all this done here. Prompt for installation directory, validate. All right, so we're good to go here. Get out of this. And what I will do is git add. This is how you push things to repos. Git. I think I showed this in one stream before. HP. Uh, 4, 8, 20. I was gonna put 2021, but this will be fine. Only one of the. Oh, why did I use P? It should be M. There we go. Git push What's my password? No peeking, guys. No peeking. For those that are watching this stream later. Okay. All right, so now that it's updated or uploaded to GitHub, now I can go to another system. So this is our VM, and this is what we'll be working out of from now on instead of that other VM, just so we can like do other things on here and make sure I don't mess anything up on my my other VM. So this has gone through and installed Node.js, Git. So what I'll do is Git, and I will go to the the website here for the repo. Weird. I thought I had another window open. Yeah, this is wrong. All right, so go to the repo here. So that's github.com/treestar systems. And then you'll, on the main page actually, you'll see some of my other projects, and all my repositories are actually shown here, the ones that are actually public, actually some that are private too. And then from here, you'll see the Node.js boilerplate. And then what we can do is click here, get the link, and then we'll do a git. I think it's like git clone. Yeah, git clone. And we want to do this. Let's actually go to the opt directory to do this. And then we're going to do the git clone because it's going to download it into this opt directory. And then it's going to clone that. So download everything. Wow, could not resolve, huh? Weird. All right, it's got Google now this time. Okay. I've been having internet troubles today. I haven't switched back over to my primary internet, but I have my backup internet in place, and maybe it's causing some issues here. So I'll fix that after the stream. It seems like it's going well enough so far. All right, so now let's go to Node.js boilerplate and lsalh. And now I can actually start editing that file. If I wanted to, one thing that's nice about with Git, it'll actually have the proper file permissions and set them. So then I don't have to like, say, hey, chmod this, whatever. It'll actually do it. Everything's all there for me as if, I ran it on this system before. So I can actually do project primer.sh and it'll actually run my script for me, which is really nice. So now we can go through and like look at this and say, okay, if I wanted to add a project name, I can do app0. Project description. One thing I would like to do with this is kind of make it to where it's a multi-liner, but it doesn't have to be anything crazy. If I press enter on this, it will go to the next prompt. So apt A0 application. So system ID app0 sys0. And I need these for like my projects that I deal with, and to application port production port number. So let's enter A. Well, that's not right. So, it's going to give us an actual error here. Some of those errors you can actually send to like to null, like dev null, so you won't see it. That could be something that would be a little bit quote unquote cleaner. But I do like to see some of these, especially in testing. So 2. And then valid char. Application development port number. All right, so I could put in 3, or let's put in 2. All right, and it's like it says now it prompts me a valid and unused port number. So if I could put an A, well, it's going to still have that same problem. So now let's put in 3. All right, that's good. So now MongoDB port number, let's put in 4. And the directory, we can just keep it as opt. So now it's showing me everything that I need to see here for the file itself. Oh, darn it. This is not screen. How do I do it on a regular system? I forgot how to do this on a regular system where I can scroll up. All right, well, hold on. I forgot. On Linux systems, one thing you can do is actually the screen itself, even though everything scrolls off of the screen, you can actually run it to where um, you can, especially if you're in the terminal itself, you can actually scroll up on the screen so that you can actually lock the screen and then scroll up if you need to. But this is one of the reasons why I like running these things in screen itself, along with being able to log back into the screen itself, the screen session itself, and do what I need to. But in this case, we'll set up a screen session because we did install it, and then we can go ahead and run that all again. It will not bore you too much. So with this one, boom, boom. System ID. All right. And then application port number 2, 3, 4, opt. All right, cool. So now I did all that so I can go ahead and look at this. So this is the generate core .js file, or to generate that file. As we saw before, we had insertion point in this area, but now we see that all the information from that we've collected, the MongoDB port, the actual DB name, which should be the same as the actual project name itself. All that stuff gets created for us in this core vars file, and then we can call that later all around our program itself. As you can see, I have everything else is the same, but it did what it needed to and did a string substitution using sed for that actual file. So that's a nice thing right there. So now we can just press enter, enter to get out of that. Now, one thing I did want to do is with this, I wanted to add something. One of the things I want to add is Nginx. So I do have a bit of boilerplate in terms of the Nginx config. How do I do this? Okay. I think I can do a new window. All right, great. Just want to get something from this one here, from this device. Give me a moment while I do this off screen. So I'll do cat Etsy Nginx. Nginx is a web server. It's a high performance web server. And what Nginx allows you to do is proxy connections, just like Apache, and even do other things in terms of serving up static files a little bit faster than a Node.js app. So usually what I do is I put Nginx in front of my Node.js app, and then it communicates and passes information to that Node.js app, and then passes it back as necessary. With Nginx acting as a proxy and a go-between, then we can protect our application, and even do things like load balancing, and even things like load balancing, um, a little bit load balancing, rate limiting, in terms of rate limiting how many people access our app or anything else like that, and quite a few other things as well. Okay. Oops. Let's get this bit of code here. All right. Good. All right, so let's take this and process it in Notepad++. I am going to take out these 2 lines here. Also that. So we're going to leave that for testing reasons. Good. Root. Sorry for not showing you guys this. But I'll show you what I've done. This will be good to explain, and I'll show you. Okay. Okay. I think we replaced. These are the things that we need to replace. Let me add the redirect as well. We might script this part too, where we actually go out and get an actual SSL certificate. So I'll have to figure out the best way for that. Name. Sorry to leave you guys hanging on this. And one thing I do suggest is that if you listen to any of my streams or even any of my content, I think something that I've gotten used to is listening to things at 2x speed. Get you to listen to more content, and then you can just slow it down for the content that you want to really soak in and get more information on or understand the information that's being provided. All right, I think we're good to go here. Okay, one thing we want to do with this one here is I'm not sure how I'm going to put this in, right? So this is my file. All right, so with Nginx, you can actually do redirects. Nginx takes things in somewhat JSON objects or JSON-like structures. That's kind of the syntax or the markup to it, but it's not exactly that. But essentially, you define a server, and then what port that server listens to. So in this case, I have this listening to all IP addresses, all IPv4 addresses. and port 80. And this one is all IPv6 addresses. This is what this represents. Then I'll have it, we can actually input the server name. So this could be our sys name if you wanted to. So system ID if we wanted to. And then this will be what it's going to return. So in this case, it can return HTTP or HTTPS. In this case, what I had to do is I have it redirecting to HTTPS. Now, SSL certs are so cheap, they're free at this point, that you can get something from Let's Encrypt, and then you can always have your project protected with an SSL cert, and the data that is moving from one spot to the next or from client to server will be encrypted over the internet. So we can actually take this out. Same thing with this. Because if anything, we want to have it to where it's like, hey, listen, it's standard, and go through and deal with putting in an SSL cert. Like that is it. So in this case, we're going to take out this .com because this system right now will be running behind something. And then if I wanted to with my server, I can do the same thing with listen on port 80 and 443 on both IPv4 and IPv6. But in this case, we're just going to take that out. And I wanted to show you guys all that. In terms of our SSL certificate, we can show where we actually have that information. This can also be in our op directory if we need to. It's probably best to store it somewhere else. If you use something like Let's Encrypt, you can actually have all that information, all that information should be stored in its folder once you run it, and it'll tell you where the certificate is, and then you can actually link that here. And these are the files that you're actually going to be looking at: your PIM, your PIM files, so your full chain and your priv key. So your private key, of course, is what signs everything and validates everything for you, or validates your public requests. So if you lose that private key, you're screwed. But one thing that's nice about Let's Encrypt is that you can just go ahead and put it back in. Now, there is a bit of a vulnerability, supposedly, with Let's Encrypt, as I've read. With Let's Encrypt, the problem is that if they lose their private key, if there's something that happens with their service, then everybody's possibly susceptible to any type of vulnerabilities or attacks that come with that. So, be wary of that. Maybe you want to go to GoDaddy or something like that. Once your app is, you want it in full production. Let's Encrypt is great for testing. I also used Let's Encrypt in production, but you have to make sure that with Let's Encrypt that you renew that cert I think it's like every 30 days or 60 days or something like that. All right, so server ID, system ID, and like what we'll do is this is something that I would probably do. I don't want to do all this insertion point stuff for all these static files, and it should just be putting out this information here. I shouldn't have anything else on there. So something like this, I would actually just generate in the actual script itself. It makes the script a little bit longer and somewhat bloated, if you will, but I think it's a little bit nicer because then I can easily hit multiple different values all at once and then output that information. And we'll go through and test all that now and start working with the variable replacements once we put this in. Okay, so this right here. So this is for production only. I can add something else where I put it in, not just production, but I can put it in development. I could put a string in for or something in for development as well. Let's close this out here. Don't think I need anything. I could put something in for development as well. So app prod port. And this is pretty much standard. I use this in terms of like all my different apps. One thing I do like, of course, with Notepad++ is that we have like syntax highlighting, so I can see, okay, this is the corresponding curly brace for this one here, so on and so forth. Okay. All right, so I'll just copy and paste that. Take this information. Let's see here. This is the old server. This is the new one. All right, nano primer. And then what we're going to do is do a little copy and paste here. All right, cool. So we can do this here. This is why we have stuff like this, because we're going to use it. So function, and just go ahead and as you can see, I have it go out to a file here. So do I need that? I think that's actually wrong. Yeah, that's actually wrong. That should be in here, because the function in the function itself, I should be uncommenting that. There we go. Yeah, that looks better. So do generate Nginx, Nginx, Nginx conf. And this will go to Etsy. I probably shouldn't have closed that window now. Etsy Nginx sites enabled. And I think it's default. And we could check that later. So what I'll do actually is let's actually set up Nginx. And if you wanted to drop out of your current session while not losing it, especially if you're not using screen or anything else like that, you can actually press Control Z. And in some cases, with Control Z, it'll drop back down to the what's it called? It'll drop back down to the shell and put the job or put the process running in the background. You type in FG and it'll put the process running back into the foreground. That way you can go back to edit it. If I wanted to, I could have just opened up another screen, but sometimes I'll do things like this, whatever I feel comfortable. But you need to learn and understand some of these things, because it helps you a lot in terms of moving around the command line and even putting some jobs in the background as well. All right, so in this case, let's apt install -y nginx. I need to get this, and I'm probably going to have a problem, it looks like. Oh, okay, good. All right, great. So now I can actually go ahead, nano Etsy nginx sites. And there's two that are two things available. So sites available and sites enabled. We're going to put this in sites enabled because we want this to make sure this is enabled. And if it's something like with Apache, sites enabled and sites available, they were just symbolically linked in most cases. But you can also have like other scripts underneath there. In some cases, for instance, you would have not a script, but you would have a file or config file for each vhost. For me, I dump everything in one file. I just don't have config files that are that big in most cases. So that's a problem as well, just to let you guys know. Okay, so sites enabled default. Boom. Now, also, what I should have, now that I get this 19.8, I think it's like 28 dot. 28:30. All right, great. So now we see that our Nginx website is actually up. We can actually secure this in time, and we'll probably go through that process as well. But these are some of the things that you have to do to set up a test system. In some cases, a lot of these things are abstracted nowadays to where you don't have to deal with this, and it's a little bit more automated, so you won't have these problems, and other people other people are doing these things for you and taking it out of your hands, especially if you're dealing with something like maybe even like a Docker swarm where you've already configured a template, if you will, and then you put it out there. I don't know much about Docker, so I probably said that wrong. Or if you have like if you've cloned things, or if you're using something like have these up for you, and then you just put them out into the wild, and everything just starts to work. All right. Actually, I need to put that under there. There we go. All right. So we've confirmed our web server works, and we can actually start putting stuff on there. So I'm excited about that because getting this development environment going and then start working on this. This is just something that it's always good to make sure that you do things that will give everybody so much time and money. Give yourself some time and money, just like but you forget to pay yourself. Pay yourself first, and then go from there. Guys, if there's any problems with the stream, I do apologize. Again, I said I'm having some internet issues here. Yeah, so hopefully it'll come through. Oof, hopefully. Okay, cool. It'll probably look like crap though. Damn it. All right, hopefully I'm explaining everything. I know I talk a lot anyway, so. All right, so get back to it. So I'm going to press FG to bring my process back to the foreground. I've already copied that information. Now what I want to do is undo this and then copy and paste in the right directory, or the directory that I want to eventually affect. So I'll uncomment these once I feel everything is good to go, and go from there. Ooh, I could be a make sure don't like overwrite my actual config file. But again, this is why we want to put this on a VM that has nothing on it that we don't really too much care about. All right, let's get to coding some stuff here, or doing some variable replacements in our strings here. So now I do notice that this is indented over one line. So I'm going to do that beforehand. Do a multi-line edit, Control C. All right. All right, good. Good. And I want to put that in there too. And how do I echo a string? It should be. Oh, great. I did it in the wrong place. There we go. That's the right place there. Good. And take that out. All right. Get rid of those lines there because they're annoying me. And then I should be able to, oh, okay, I put that in the wrong spot. Great, I still got to do everything, push everything over. Now, I know it seems like being a bit OCD with that. The reason why we do things like that is to make sure a standard of some sort. So echo, and I think I'm going to use echo. It's like Inca echo E or something like that. Oh no, it's all lowercase, and then just do that. Okay, good. You go through so much stuff. I'm not gonna lie, I forget a lot of stuff. There's just a lot that I forget, and I'll just pull it out of my brain every so often, and be like, oh, okay, yeah, you got to do this, this, and this. As you can see here, what we have to do is we have to escape such a out. There we go. Bit of a freeze there. So we have to escape quotation marks. Those marks are okay. Curly braces are okay. And And you can actually have it where it's silent, where it does a lot of this stuff, where you can even just say echo, generate this, generate that, generate that. You can have that anywhere. You can have that within the function itself. I would probably have it more in the function itself as opposed to having it in the prompts function, just to keep things a little bit cleaner. Um, and that's probably what I'll do. So echo generating in Nginx configuration. It'll do what it's got to do there. I don't think. Let's see. I don't know if I don't think I have to any comments or anything like that. I don't think I have to actually even this. Let's do echo. This is where you sit back and just go at it. George phone. Also, one thing we want to add is this here. I want to add a new line character to that just to ensure that it creates those new lines when generating these confs. Or when it's generating these messages here. Okay. And I think with echo, we have to do like a -E. So let me check. I know I have it somewhere. No. File. Alrighty, so hey, we're coming up on an hour mark, but I do want to finish this out. This is some of the things that you have to deal with when going through and writing scripts, writing code. There's just so much like tedious stuff that you have to do. Like it's absolutely boring. There's no way to, in some cases, there's no way to make like a stream unless you do like Camtasia double X speed or something like that, and you process it and do some video editing to make it a lot faster. This shit is like so boring sometimes, man. It's just absolutely freaking dreadful. But it is what it is, and that's what you have to go through. Also here, probably want to escape this. You see how that $host, that's going to be a problem because in in what is it called? In Bash, that's actually a way of calling a variable. So you might have to actually escape these $signs here. All right, quick way of doing this is if we search for $, and then replace it with $. So if you press Control W, in Nano that is, if you press Control W, Control R, that allows you to do replace. First, it'll ask you for the string that you want to search for, and then it'll ask you for the string that you want to actually replace that search for string. So in this case, it's $. Hopefully that doesn't cause any problems, and that's no special command. It looks like it did it right. In this case, I don't want to do a replace on that because I already did it. So let's use Y for this one, Y for that one, Y for that one. Yep, 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 yep. And it'll go to something else, and then we will Control C to get us out of that. So that makes short work of some of these things, and this is again why you need to learn your environment, learn the things that you use all the time, so that you don't have to go through all of that over and over and over again. And I'm not sure if I actually escaped that properly, but we'll see. And one thing, shoot, we have to go and add spaces. Proper indentation does help make it a little bit more readable. I hate you. Why did you just do that? I mean, I know you why you did it, but I hate you because I hate myself. Oh, wrong stream. All right, so we want to replace this with some of our variables. One thing we're going to do is go at the top here. All these variable names, I'm going to need them. So I'm going to take this and go ahead and put it in. And thanks for those that are watching. I really do appreciate you. You don't have to always talk, but I know you're there. And I appreciate you being there. Alrighty, so I'll have this on another screen in my little scratch pad, if you will, and then I can go ahead and start do some variable replacements here. And what we'll do is I'll go ahead and test this, and we'll run through, and then fix anything that needs to be fixed, anything that needs to be escaped, anything that comes up as an error. We'll go ahead and fix that here. All right, so so I need this in terms of the server name. I need this to be the system ID. So I have that as that variable name is system, capital I, and then lowercase d. So we're just going to do a $sign and whatever the variable is. All right. Same thing here. Now, in this case, system ID could be something like a fully qualified domain name. So something with a .com, .co, .uk, what have you. Hey, Ben Porter, I really do appreciate that, man. Yeah, hey, listen, we got to put ourselves out there. So really do appreciate you guys watching. You guys don't have to comment, but if there's anything that you guys do need to know and you have questions on, please let me know, just so we can actually, help one another and teach one another. But Ben Porter, I appreciate you, brother. Alrighty. So in terms of sysname, the same thing here. Maddox12, brother, I appreciate you commenting, man. Really do appreciate you guys there. I think it's very important in terms of our community that we put this information out there and that we help as many people as we can in terms of getting this information out. All right, so back to what we're dealing with here. In this case, we won't escape the $sign symbol in front of this because we want this variable to be replaced. This is syntax here in terms of Nginx. And with Nginx, it'll actually take your host. There's like some variables that are just inherent or actually passed or made available to you in the config to where you can actually take the variables and manipulate them as needed. So in this case, what I will do is I will go ahead and comment out this line, or actually that's the wrong way of doing it. I'll add the comment a little bit closer to the file or to the line itself. But I do want to make sure, like system ID and all that stuff, because what I might do here is later on is the system ID, whatever that may be. I might do some string substitutions in terms of like getting the right name. Usually the way Let's Encrypt will write a file name because dots are a bit of special characters in the command or in the file name. So if it's like www.host.com, it'll write it out as www_host_com. And then that'll be the full file name, or actually directory name. That's what it is. So it'll actually have that under its own directory. So in this case, I might do something where if your system ID has a period in it of any sort, it will convert it to a underscore. That could be something that we can definitely do in this case, where that system ID, we might change that in this function and maybe even write a regular expression that actually changes all that for us. All right. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna have to research that because I'm like horrible with regular expressions in terms of remembering them. As you'll see, I'm horrible with a lot of things, but hey, I'm trying to help everybody as best as I could or can. All right, so same thing here with system ID. But yeah, we want this file to be, we want this name to be commented out until I get something a little bit better in place. But we'll see how all this works. In fact, this could be a bit of an issue, and we might want to go with, in terms of our testing unit, do everything through port 80 for the time being. We'll see. And the reason why is because now we're behind. We're working on a local IP address, and with that local IP address, unless we do something to our etc host file in Windows to redirect that, it will not resolve to that name, and we'll have issues. Also, with Let's Encrypt, it'll have issues with that. So what we probably will have to actually do is generate a what's it called? Cert. Generate a invalid SSL certificate, or a private SSL certificate, if you will. All right, so I think I got everything else done in terms of system ID. All right, so now system ID is done. Now, so that's the app prod port variable. And that's how that looks. Boom. And then this should be the actual app name. So that is the project name variable. Most of my projects will run. There we go. That should fix that. That should be that's the right spot for it. Most of my projects will run on the local port or local host port, and then that port is only accessible to local system daemons and binaries or what have you that might actually go out to the internet or anything like that, or do TCP/IP calls to other ports, but or the local applications, I should say. But then from there, it should be exposed. Now, if I needed to do anything like port forwarding to this box, it only binds to the local host port or the redirect or the loopback IP address. So then it's not really publicly accessible. And Nginx is going to proxy everything for me from that local IP or that loopback address, and then proxy everything for me to port 3000, which will be reachable through other systems that I allow. And that gets into firewalling. All right, so so we should be able to. All right, so what I want to do is get this name here, and I'll be trying to stream next week. I'll be back in Florida, in my hometown. Just got to handle some stuff at the home office for my day job, so I may or may not be streaming, because I mean I got internet at the house, but I may take that time off. I'm not sure. I know I just started these streams and I'm already taking a quote unquote break, but yeah, it might be hard for me to make content the same way or same quality. But hey, it's not a big deal. It started from somewhere, so this should be fine. All right, so generate Nginx conf. All right, so yeah, let's test this. And we'll do this in another window. In this case, all right, so far so good. App test app, testing app, system ID, test app, sys. Yeah, test app sys. And then our production, our numbers here. All right, boom. Okay, so this does look good. Let's just use this window here. All right, so it did what we needed to, generating Nginx conf, so it has that. This is what should be in the conf itself. All right, test app sys, that's good. Test app sys, that's good. That's good right there as well in terms of the URI that's being used, or the URL that will be used and redirected to. I'll have to check because maybe, yeah, I may not have needed to actually replace this. I think it should be this here, but we'll see. I'll have to look at another example of that, but altogether, like, that's good. I mean, all the characters that we escaped, the dollar signs, it didn't actually read those as variables because we escaped them. Great. Didn't look it added any other spaces or any other characters that we did not need. Great. May or may not have to take out some of these characters because you see how it's like over like that? That's just a bit of an annoyance, but it will be written to the config this way. So we're okay. Test app sys, that's good. So we got that. Taking into account this here. Now I just need to know, like, with, I think dashes will be okay for FQDN with Let's Encrypt, but most likely other things are not. And with Let's Encrypt, there's some things that they will or will not allow you to do. So I may even just leave this out and then just have something in there that generates a what's it called, a invalid SSL certificate. I forgot the name that everybody uses for that. Server name, test app sys, so that's good. Host is good, scheme is good. All right, port for the prod, that's really good. All right, that's good, that's good, that's good. And test app, all right, great. Yeah, so everything worked out well. We went through that pretty easily. There wasn't anything too serious about that. So I will end the stream. Well, let's see this. You know what? Let's give you guys more. Screw that. Screw ending the stream and going to work out. I already walked 4 miles today, so screw that for now. I think today's arms, but yeah, today might be arms and chest. All right. So what we'll do here. Oh, for the 6 people that liked the stream, I appreciate you. For the 1 person that didn't, I appreciate you as well. You know, like, thanks. All right. So with that being said, let's go back into this here. Let's split our screen. Let's go to screen 0 here and put screen 1 at the bottom. Go back up top here. And I want to get to this here. I think this should be host, man. I really do think this should be host, which means I gotta go here. I think that should be host. I think we should be good with that. So server name. So server name, system ID. That's good. What we're gonna do is we're gonna do some a regular expression to replace anything that comes in with the FQDN. And yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna search for how to do this. But I will break it down for you once I get it, because I don't know how to do it off the top of my head. So I'm okay with that. All right, so one thing we're gonna do, let's first get out of this. We are going to say, modified, I'm horrible with names, modified system ID equals, and then it'll probably be something like this. Maybe like system ID and then running something, maybe even like sed or something like that. We'll uncomment that right now. So one thing we might do is look at what is a valid I have no idea what this is, but yeah, just decent. Those are some thick ass dies and like no waste. That's a weird body. All right. Sorry, I body shamed. What we're gonna do is look up regex, and then oh, all right, cool. This is great. Regex 101. Like this website is awesome, by the way. Regex 101. This is how I test different regular expressions. And you can have like different strings in here that you or test strings, and then these are all the different rules, and then you can have different flags here. I do like this site. It's very interactive. You can do quite a bit with it. And then of course you can actually have different levels of regular expressions. Some regular expressions will work in different languages and will work exactly the same. And in some cases they will not. It's just how that language actually processes your regular expressions, escape characters and things like that, or characters that need to be escaped, and the characters that you use to escape them. Um, so for instance, in our case, we can go with this one here. I believe this will be okay. I would like to see if there's one that says like bash or something like that, but it's not there. I usually find that like it's okay to use this one here. Now, if I'm doing something like Emacs or ECMAScript, EMAXscript, yeah, ECMAScript, then I will say, hey, listen, give me a Java-based regular expression interpreter. So yeah, so regex 101, freaking awesome site for testing. So regex uh, FQDN. One thing you'll learn about searching, and there should be like a whole class on how to search, but with searching, one thing you want to do is like probably the less words that you could put in there, less specific, the better. Boom, there we go. Fully qualified domain name validation. All right, so provide an alternative hack for regex, make specification of a TLD optional. Okay. So 911 valid, .gov valid. Okay, so I like this one here. Anyway, here's a rewritten without look behind, a little uglier, but not much. All right, cool. So this guy like really went deep into it. So what I also like to do is, it's like the top answer. It looks like, yeah, 53. Huh. Yes. Regex is always going to be the best an approximation for things like this, and rules change over time. The above regex was written with the following in mind and is specific to host names. Host names are composed of a series of labels concatenated with dots. Each label is 1 to 63 characters long and may contain ASCII letters, digits, and hyphens. And when you start reading things like this, what's nice is in just breaking down the answer and understanding it, because you still have to understand this stuff at the end of the day. But when you start reading things like this is where you start going into things like, yo, what does the white paper say? Like that's the craziest stuff when you're starting to look at all stuff like this and you're like, okay, where's the white paper in terms of information and everything else like that? What are the standards for like LDAP? What are the standards for oh man, what are the standards? I forgot. There's one standard that I had to look up for Whois. So I had to look at the white. Had to look at the white paper for Whois. Man, that's crazy. Because I had to write. I wrote a bit of code that actually converted Whois information to JSON. So a Whois output, it actually took it, converted it to JSON, and then with that, I can actually rewrite and put things in place in terms of like this web application that I was actually writing. But that was a really cool project. And with Whois for JSON, I had to actually look up the white paper on what the specification said in terms of special names, when special names were actually put in, and then I had to account for them. Okay, so man paged ping. Okay, dude. So Maddox 12 is like, dude, I have done it too. man paged ping. Like, yeah, like if you look at let's do that right now actually. Put this in the background by putting in Control Z. But if you do man ping, like you'll get through and you'll look at ping, and it's like there's so many things in ping itself that it'll give you all types of information. If you do something like, I like a tool called MTR. All right, so if I MTR Google, so I think it's like something trace route. Forgot the name of it, but MTR Google. What's nice about this, if it'll come up, actually, we can do MTR because my internet is acting kind of weird today. But we can MTR, my trace route. So we can MTR this, right? And this is nice. This is cool. One thing about MTR is you can actually output this to actual static information. So let me look at an old repo here. And did I do Moss? Did I bring Moss over? I have you're a nerd when you have multiple GitHub pages. All right, so repositories. This is my old company, GitHub here. I don't really put much in there, like even the Roku controller. I actually made an actual bash script. Maddox12 says, had a guy at work amazed and all of NS lookup. Yeah, NS lookup, like there's so much into it, but then there's like other things where you can even extract even more information. And we'll get back to MTR. MTR is great. But one thing, if you go on github.com/MJNS hosting, MJ Network Solutions, it's a company that I rep. This shirt's like 10 years old. But IP block search, this one was crazy. Moss. So with Moss, I had interface, and then I had scripts, and then this is when I was coding in PHP. Like you can see, it's like 5 years ago when I was doing this. But Moss, I had MTR. Even who is? Yeah, MTR PHP. So what this would do is there we go. Here we go. So MTR report cycles 5 destination. All right, cool. So we'll use MTR. And essentially all it did is just do a shell execution of this actual script. And I really want to rewrite this in JavaScript using Node.js and actually make a whole robust API behind it. Actually, let me take that down so you guys can see. I apologize. But yeah, good comment, Maddox. So if you actually look here, yeah, if you look here with MTR, how do you get this to where it's like an actual static report that you can output on a page? So with the Moss system that I was writing in PHP, it stood for Man on Site Service, and with the Man on Site service, we would have like the idea was to have a little Raspberry Pi that would stand on site that would always be a way for us to backdoor into their system. It would connect to our main system, and then through the main system we can do any type of connections or do anything else that we wanted to. This is before I really got into APIs and doing backend stuff, but this is what I really like to do. But it would have been a good way of like knowing our customer is down before the customer even knows that they're down, so that we could resolve it. This was born out of me working a night job as a network operations technician, and we always had these systems go down and routers go down, but we had little to no backdoor into it, and I made a whole system for it. It wasn't really totally, in a sense, well received. That's not why I stopped it. I just stopped because I did other things, and I was going through going through different things in my life, and I was like, oof, early 30s, mid 30s. So it's like 5 years ago. So yeah, that was like my 30s. Yeah, early 30s. Yeah. So I was going through all that. But with MTR, boom. So we're gonna get out of this, right? With MTR, if I do that same thing here and put in that command, so if we break this down, MTR gives me a report, and it gives me a wide version of that report. And then it gives me and it asks me for the report cycles, and that -4 stands for using IPv4. So then I would use IPv4 address, and you can use IPv6 as well. I would have both of them show up. So for instance, if it was like a name or an IP address, it would know that and have a regular expression that dealt with that. as we would see here. So it would do MTR6, and then it would do like an actual match, and for that destination, if it was like, a domain or something like that, and then do all types of other things as well. It would actually use awk to take the output and then add HTML, and then use also sed to add HTML elements to it, so that when this outputted, that it would return HTML and then output it on the screen and then look right, like it would be in a table and everything. So you have to go through these things where you set up this. I was doing this 5 years ago. It's crazy, but sometimes in some languages they actually have filters to validate certain things. So like in this case, I use a filter to validate it was an IP address, and then it was an IPv6 address. If it equals false, meaning that it compared, it wasn't in terms of like if it equaled in the word and then also the type of false, then it would actually do whatever it needs to do down here. Anyways, let's get back to it. So with MTR, you would do cool things like that. It would start it, run it. It'll go through this whole process because MTR actually goes through and pings every endpoint and then gives you a nice report and then updates it on the fly or updates it as needed. So what this will do is it'll actually give you a nice report. And this is nice because you can actually have this email to you. You can have this ran on a web server or something like that, or sent to you in any different type of way. But I can actually see here that boom, I have everything. So this is cool, and this is nice if you want to do things like check your connection or what have you. Anyways, so yeah, MTR is really nice for stuff like that. But you can take MTR and then start doing all types of string replacements as needed and things like that. So I really do like that. All right, so get out of this. All right, so we need to go back. Results valid, invalid. So a-com is invalid. All right, additionally, so this is for this regular expressions. Provide an alternative hack for the regex. So 911.gov is valid, no TLD. So now I want this one because in our case, we want to validate FQDN, and it may be a local FQDN. So if that's a local system and it's non-public and it doesn't have like a .com or a TLD or a top-level domain, then I still want it to be considered valid. All right, so I'll take this regex. And then we'll take this to regex 101. And I think, so for instance, Google should work. All right, I think the reason why is this. There we go. No. Sometimes it'll be your flag too. Yeah, so Google works. All right. Oh, okay. So why is it? Okay. So where it says like global and multi-line, I only want it to be a single line. So I don't have to do a return or anything like that. So that's where that /G comes in. I don't like the fact that it's not doing that. All right, so now we know it's a valid FQDN, and then what we can do to this string is actually replace it with sed, do string replacements with that. But what we can do is add this to our prompts to make sure it's a valid actual domain name. So in this case, if I do a dash, that should not work. But if I do a, that should work. That should not work. That should not work. Co.uk. Oh, uh-oh. Oh, okay, that does work. That's weird. Maybe I just press enter at the wrong time or something. All right, cool. So we got a good regular expression here. And what we'll do, we'll incorporate this into our code. FG modified. Where do we want to put this? So we want to put this in system ID. Oh, one thing that I have to figure out here. Oh, let's increase the size of this. One thing I have to figure out is how to put this in. Huh. Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Uh, all right. So there's that. Some languages will be okay with multi-line, but I don't think this one will. So echo system ID and cut one, that one. Now, why did I do that cut? This just makes sure there's letters. All right. And then we're going to put our regular expression in here. 0 to 9. Sometimes that's what you have to go through is dealing with the the integration of code. So in this case, this may not be valid for this language here. Let me see here. Let me see if there's duplicate bash regex fqdn. Okay, that still works, huh? Oh, okay, so I have to do it like that. Same modification, but I don't want to use grep. Yeah, here we go. I try the example, no success. With the lines be, I think you cannot look ahead and bash regex and need another pattern or use Perl. Oof. Oof. Look at that. That's going to be a problem, huh? Okay. Assertion. Yeah, so this may not be valid for bash, and that's just the way because how bash interprets a regular expression. All right, so this advanced bash. All right, fully qualified domain names. Chinese CentOS 5. I have to create DNS. If UDP works with the environment, see options. On Ubuntu Gas VirtualBox, it won't work. So to cover all cases, gas. Okay. So this uses the host command. I want to see this. Geez, I hate this. It's good. Confirm. All right. You don't tell me if I take cookies or not. Take it if I want to. So Maddox, this goes if you're still listening or if you're seeing this on the playback, NS lookup. So that's pretty cool. So you can use NS lookup to actually confirm if something's a host name or not. So basically, what this is doing is saying, okay, hey, listen, if this is a host name or not, then it will tell me, it'll give me a response, and that response, or per that response, I can see if that is valid. Huh. Okay. All right. So let's do host, and then dash t a. First, let's actually look up the help here. Understand what these things do. So they have three different triggers here: capital T, lowercase t, capital A. Capital T enables TCP/IP mode. Lowercase t specifies the query type. Capital A is like dash A or dash lowercase a, but omits RRSIG, NSEC, and NSEC3. I'm not exactly sure what those are. I'm not familiar with them. So in this case, and then there's a dash S. A serve fail response should stop query. Okay, cool. So it says host name, but I think that's the part that we can replace. And we're just waiting for a response on these. I have to run it twice again. I have to figure out what's going on with DNS on this thing. Connection timed out, no service could be reached. And then I run it again. Yeah, there we go. WC0 has host address 111. So if I do host name, command not found, hostname -h, server name. So I think that's the yeah. So that's the guy's input. So if I do, all right, okay, cool. And then if it goes to google.com, all right. This may or may not be the best way to do this though, because yeah, that regex probably be a better way of doing it. Because for instance, if it's like foo, all right, it's gonna fail. But if it's WC0, that's going to be okay. But in our case, our server name is not really defined like that. So yeah, the regular expression is going to be a better thing for us. But it's good to look at things like this and explore it a little bit. Again, as I said before, say all the time, it's like, I'm here to learn more stuff, and this is a nice way of doing stuff in terms of like looking up publicly known IP addresses and domain names. So that might be a good thing that you guys can also use in terms of scripting, or using it in terms of scripting. Press Control 8 twice, and I'm switching back to my shell 0 or my screen 0. Now I see here enter $. Ew. So I'm testing new code here. So what I'll do to not mess up anything else too much, prompt for system ID, and I'm going to take this whole section here and put it in my test, and take this and put it back to where it was before. All right, cool. So that's untouched. So now what I'll do is I'll comment this out, and all we're going to do is just do, you can consider it like a bit of a unit test, if you will. So we're just going to test one thing. Oh crap. Damn it. All that good stuff that I just had. All right, that's okay. Has to be okay because you already screwed it up. All right, so I got to take this here. But it's not a big deal. It's like not much in there. Or there was in there. And we're going to uncomment our do prompts test line. So now we can actually use this for testing. All right, so So we'll go through this here. Now, what I want to do is just test. I want to just test that regular expression. So this while loop, or this while loop here, I'm just only going to test it. Oh, okay. Why is that like bothering me? All right, so I'm just gonna make a whole new while loop, and the while loop is going to take in. All right, so while loop is going to do. It's going to echo the system ID. So if we're going to do match it against a regular expression. There's not. We're going to do a not because we want to make sure that if it doesn't match, then it starts asking for a valid system ID based on that regular expression. And why do I want to cut it? Man, I wrote this like a week ago and I forgot why this is the case. But as I said before, this, you can just go here. This is why you want to do this, because you'll get so much stuff offline and you just don't even know why the hell you have it in there, and it just stays in there. So checks the first and last character. Oh, okay, cool. So what this is doing is checking that the first and last character is a number and a letter. Oh, okay, yeah. So yeah, we want that. But we don't have to. I don't think we need it on this one. We may not even need it at all, because a part of this regular expression will test for dashes and underscores in the right and wrong place. So, all right. So, oh. All right, cool. So it should take our system ID, echo it out, and then see if it's equal to this regular expression. And let's go ahead and put in our regular expression here. Also, Doom Eternal is in a freaking crazy game, and I watch gameplay of that stuff, and definitely something to veg out to. All right, cool. So I want to say this may not be right in terms of how. I don't think I need this caret at the front here. All right, cool. So echo system ID. Right. Split the screen. Go to number 1. Let's see if it works. Add enter valid system ID. That is not a valid system ID. Okay, cool. So it looks like. Oh yeah, the Doom soundtrack is sick. Actually, you know what? I was thinking about this before I started the stream. The Doom, like if you go like the Doom workout mix, the Doom workout mix is sick as hell, man. I freaking love it. Let me go. Let me find this thing, man. The Doom workout mix, bro, is killer for leg days. Oh wow. Kyrie Irving breaks Steven Adams' ankle. Oh, well. Hopefully it's not physically broken. That would suck. Oh man. Sorry. It's like our history. Doom. I'm gonna put the link in the chat here. I've watched so many damn Doom videos in the last like day or two. Doom workout. Yes. All right, so links in the chat. You guys should see that. Definitely listen to that if you're in like the metal rock or whatever. That's kind of what I grew up on, Guns N' Roses and stuff like that. I love it. So Maddox, definitely listen to that on your workout days or your leg days or what have you, man. It's freaking sick. Um, anyways, back to business. So we put a dash A. Let's put an A dash. That doesn't work. Let's put an A dash.com. Let's put A. I gotta search that. So, guys, search up when the Doom soundtrack kicks in with Captain America. Even when the Doom soundtrack kicks in with Kingsman, that movie is sick. The first movie where the guy goes in that church and starts going off on everybody else because the guy, what's it called? Samuel's playing that tone that makes people crazy and want to fight each other. But yeah, that like when the Doom mix hits anything is like super funny and like it's just like, oh god, it makes it a whole nother level of carnage. All right, so let's do A.com. Oh, A.com doesn't work. So is it, let's try ASS.com. That still doesn't work. All right, so this is not a good, wow, it does not, okay, route chars, letters, numbers, dash. So so that doesn't work either. Okay. So what does work? What would work in this? And I think the problem with this is it's possible that the regular expression is written improperly. Um, One thing I like to do is like, so do while read, I'll do things like echo system ID. I want to see what it inputs, right? It's like, okay, well, if it's wrong, what the hell am I doing wrong? Is it just the way I enter it? So all right, cool. So it didn't take my entry and put it in the wrong or anything like that. It hasn't modified it in any which way. Oh, sorry. It hasn't taken my entry and modified it in any which way. I've added a line here for, sorry, I covered it up earlier, but it didn't modify that entry in any which way. So it's like, okay, what is really causing this? I could check over, okay, what am I actually putting into this? Putting into this prompt, what does my command look like? So it's like, while echo system ID is not equal to this regular expression, then it will keep on prompting. It's like, okay, taking that, and then if I do A, so if I do 911.gov, all right, so that's okay. It doesn't give me an error, or it doesn't give me an error in terms of the actual string itself, but it does say, hey, listen, there's a problem nonetheless. So I can't do 911. That doesn't work again. So the problem I see with this is looking at some of the examples of how how a regular expression is entered in. If you want trailing dots, which is technically allowed. Here's a rewritten without the look behind, a little uglier, but not much. Now, I forgot what look behind means in regular expressions. In fact, let's look it up. Regex look behind. Oh, I got caps on. All right. Look behind assertions are sometimes thought to be a bit difficult to comprehend and construct. However, if some basic rules are followed, they are simple. Okay. Here we go. Explanation. Look behind, as the name shows, is the process to check what is before match. If it matches a character or characters or a group before the actual match and decides to declare a successful match or failure. Okay, match or failure. But just like look ahead assertions, they do not consume any characters and give up the match and return only a match or not a match. So two possible conditions are yes or no. On this basis, a decision is made. There There are two types of look behind assertions: positive look behind, negative look behind. All right, so pretty much it's saying that it looks at something, it matches a character or characters or a group before the actual match and decides to declare a successful match. Oh, okay, so it's kind of like it's being predictive, I guess. Huh, okay. Let's look at something else. Look ahead. This is crazy how they did this website. Let's just control A and look at everything here. Look arounds often cause confusion to the regex apprentice. A quick syntax reminder. All right. Look ahead. Asserts that what immediately follows the current position in the string is foo. Look behind. Asserts that what immediately precedes the current position in the string is foo. Oh wow. This is some crazy shit. Regular expressions are crazy. Okay. All right. So it has to deal with positioning and says that, hey, this should be this, or I semi understand that. I have to like spend time with that. All right. So we encapsulate this. Now what we can do is try one of the other regular expressions that are on this page here. So here's a rewritten without look behind, a little uglier, but not much. Okay. So this says this means it's probably gonna be simpler. Oh, so one thing in terms of this regular expression, I'm looking at it, it's pretty much saying like 4 through to 20 to 253 characters long. That's interesting. And each one of these sections has only so many characters. 2 to 63. I think that's what that means. Maybe that's positions. Okay. Quick way to delete something in Nano is put something on a new line. Just delete that new line, delete the space, and then just insert whatever you got to insert. All right, let's get this. If this works, then it'll be great. Nope, that doesn't work. Okay. All right, so that doesn't work. Now, why doesn't it work? Echo system ID. All right, so echo system ID. Okay. It's possible the way I'm actually putting in this regular expression. Oh. This one has a demo with it too. Pattern settings. Yeah, see, but the thing is this. JavaScript server. Says. So. Oh, okay, so IGN, but this just shows multi-line, case insensitive. All right, so then, yeah, multi-line should work in this. Even if it doesn't, that's fine. Yeah, it's not going to be good in terms of this regular expression. We don't want that. Oh, that That's not good. There. No, we don't want this one. We can duplicate this screen, go back, leave. What is the right way to write a regular expression? Somebody put it in there. So grep. Now what I'm looking for is just the right way to enter this regular expression and put it into our script. The only thing I have a problem with bash regex. How to use regular expressions in bash. There we go. That's funny. Oh, that's hilarious. All right, bash. All right, Linux Bash provides a lot of commands and features for regular expressions or regex, grep, expr, and then sed and awk are some of them. Bash also had, okay, so that's the operator here for regular expressions. So we got that part. Operator, which is named rematch operator. In the tutorial, we will look at the rematch operator and use cases. More information about regex command can be found in the following tutorials. Okay, so in this case, and I think that's how we have to encapsulate our regular expressions. And the reason why I say that is because here we have this. And I think the problem we're having is not so much our regular expressions or just our regular expressions, or the regular expression itself. It's just the way that I'm writing it. The example is probably for another language, even though I did look up for bash. Okay. All right, cool. So from the little bit that I see from there, we're going to comment out this line, uncomment this line, and I think we can just do this here. That might be a problem. Nope. Yeah, that's a problem. All right, so I think we need to do this here. Boom. So it is the right way. Let's quickly switch that back. Now I do see that we do have, there's no caret symbol in there. I don't, yeah, it's a dollar sign. It's fine the way it's written. No, it might be. I think this regular expression is just not valid for bash. Oh wait. Need to get rid of all the problems in that. All right. Let's find the right regular expression here. Match start of line. Specify the start of line. Oh, and that's another thing I do know about regular, or the little bit that I know about regular expressions. With the caret symbol, which is shift 6, that just means start of line, and then the dollar sign means end of line or at the end of line. And that sometimes helps you read regular expressions. The only thing I worry about is just how those things are encapsulated in terms of using the parentheses. If that is the right way to write this regular expression, it may be something even like this, where you have it in quotation marks. And that's one thing that I'm also worried about. don't think there's no need to enter that anymore to have that. Oh, take out echo system ID. All right. This will be the last thing I do, and then I will get off stream here. How do I use? Oh, all right, cool. Huh, okay. All right, so use grep. Bash using own regular operator is faster alternative in this case, given that you're only matching a single value already stored in a variable. Okay, so this is my variable. Okay, regex date. All right. I like this way because it's a little bit cleaner in terms of I can actually have the regex on another line and also reuse that regex in the code later if necessary. So what I'll be doing here is taking this regular expression, putting in a variable. Let's say reg x equals one thing that it did say is single quotes. All right, cool. Single quotes. Get rid of this. Also, this makes the code a little bit more readable too and maintainable. You can make the change up here, then that affects everything else, which is really nice. So what it will be is regex. Oh, wrong symbol. Even looked at the keyboard, and it still messed up on that. Ugh. All right, cool. So one thing I can do though. Yeah, I don't need to. Huh. That'll be funny. So it'll be funny if like the whole time, the whole problem has just been the fact that I've been calling it in the wrong way, which happens. And that's the part where you walk away from the computer and you're like, I was probably calling this thing the wrong way the whole time. And part of it is like, I copied the information here from where it says ecosystem ID. And this is what happens. Like you get into these ways. And it's like, okay, in this case, I will say I'm out of my depth. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm drowning here, right? And it's like I'm looking at it, but then I'm like, okay, well, I can do this, this, and this. And one thing I do is I always try to look at examples that quote unquote work. So in this case, this guy, he did his, and it's like he's using grep. And this guy tells him how to properly use grep, or actually not to even use grep, but to use bash, and it's built in regular expression comparison mechanism. So, so what I see here, though, in terms of the pattern, right? In terms of the pattern that's shown here, is that this doesn't have the same echo. Now, the reason why echo was used in the last command is mainly because it would echo into it would put into standard output, or it would actually echo that the result of that variable and then pipe it into another command. So it'll pass that information on to another command. So I didn't need to do that here. So by me echoing that, I might have actually caused an issue with the way it was running. So just for sanity check, or for sanity's sake, we know this works, right? Like it's like, all right, cool. Let's go ahead and do this. Cut that. But then we're just going to undo everything that we were doing. Actually, we're going to redo that because we don't have to that'll be okay that way. And what we'll do is take this line. Daniel Tucker, did I walk in on a bash script? Yes. Yes, you did. It's just as ugly as walking in on two people that you didn't want to see having sex. It's just that ugly. But gotta have to make a vulgar joke on each stream there. But yeah, Daniel Tucker, I appreciate you showing up here and watching, man. I really do appreciate that. But yeah, so So the problem I had is that I was using echo that was piped into the cut command, because the cut command, what it would do is check the first and last character if there were any dashes or anything else like that and compare it to another regular expression. So in this case, I didn't need to do that. Like, I screwed myself. Or I possibly screwed myself. So let's check this, right? Because I also did encapsulate this in single quotes up here. So let's do that there. Actually, let's undo that. All right, cool. So system ID, if system ID is not equal or matching of this does not match this regular expression, and Daniel Tucker, this regular expression is to validate a fully qualified domain name. So 911.gov and 911 if it's just a system name. This is just for a bash script for system IDs that we can actually use to make a this is a whole boilerplate project that outputs all the configs and everything and fills in things for us after taking in a couple prompts. We're writing all of this in bash because most of the time you're going to have a bare system and all it's going to have is some type of shell, and the shell mainly of choice is bash and its various versions. All right. So I know some people use corn shell, born again shell, or born again is bash, and then Z shell, which is crazy. So it's like a whole nother one. All right. Anyways, so now we're good. Like this is our test just to see why did it fail before? Did it fail because we wrote the regular expression improperly? That we wrote the way that the variable is passed to that regular expression was that improper? So like, what was the problem here, and why were we stuck on that for what, like 20 minutes and a half hour or something? I don't know. All right, cool. So let's run that. Oh, that's wrong. Line 219. That should be, cancel. Control C, 219 would be this one. Unexpected. Oh, okay. Unexpected, huh? All right, so we'll just put this here. All right, cool. Regex command not found. Why are you even looking at that? Wait. 219. All right, I'm just gonna do that. There we go. I'm gonna comment that out because that should be a variable, and I don't know why it's doing that because I have the assignment operator there. All right, so A. Okay. So it wasn't so much the way we wrote the variable or anything like that. It wasn't the echo part of it. Most likely it is the regular expression itself and the way that's written. So in this case, depending on the language. All right, so Daniel Tucker says, I stick with SH because most of my work involves Alpine Linux, but I like Bash for Ubuntu and CentOS, RIP. CentOS died? They killed it? They got rid of it? Like, I know it was on version like 5 for years, for decades or something like that. Yeah. Okay. Wow. I have to look that up. That's crazy. But yeah, so yeah, if you're using a certain a Linux variant or something like that that has a default shell of just shell or bash shell or something like that, then that's what you're going to have to run into, and that's what you're going to have to program for. But yeah, I totally understand that. Most of my systems are bash because I use Ubuntu is my OS of choice. I used to use even SUSE Linux was my first one, or Sled, sometimes SLES, so SLED and SLES, and then Fedora, which was like a pain to install because there's just so much in terms of the package and everything like that. It was so slow. I think I've been using Ubuntu since version 5 point something, and that was back in college in 2004, 2005, I think. Anyways, trip down memory lane. All right, so the problem is the way our regular expression is written, and that is mainly why we're having this issue here. So if we change the way it's written, see if this works. No. Hey, Wow. Okay. So that's not the problem. All right. So it looks like even if I do system ID, it's better off running it. Oh, hold on. I think we have this saved here. There we go. Regex, and then it's better off running it. Oh, that's a new command. I didn't know they can do that. This is cool. So sometimes you're not looking at the keyboard like myself, and you press the wrong button, and then you find out that you can actually advance one word or one word it looks like, or just a dollar sign. Yeah, from dollar sign to dollar sign with Alt W. I didn't know about that. That's really cool. Oh, that's what I was doing. The Alt W just means search again for the last phrase I was looking at. If I do Control W, what I was searching for was dollar sign. That's why I was like, why is that working? So I was confused there. But Alt W means like, if you do Control W, search for something, and you want to search for it again, instead of doing Control W every time, you can use Alt W and then keep on doing the search or repeat the search. I think in Vim it's like man, Vim or VI or Vim, it's just / and it repeats the search over again. Don't quote me on that because I am not a Vim ninja. Those people are a special class of human beings, and I am not one of them. All right, so what I want to do here in this case is I want to comment this. Oh man, I want to comment this out and then go to the beginning of this line. Can put this one in, take this line out because I don't want it, and then regex. It says that it doesn't like this, and it's possibly because of this. I have to rewind my own stream to see what the hell I was writing. Command not found. Oop. Now, I think it's doing that because it's actually reading the it could be the underscore. I think it's actually reading what's in between the quotes here on the single quotes, but it shouldn't be. No. It might be a special name. Oh, gotta change it down here too. Why does it say command not found? Regex. All right, so I want this here. I can encapsulate my things here. Okay, regex state. Okay. All right. So I want to have a variable. Boom. I shouldn't have a problem. I shouldn't have this problem here. While. Oh, this is weird. Why is it saying regex system not found? I'll have to figure that out later. I'm gonna get this done and then yeah, okay, that's fine. So that works right there. I will have to look at, what's wrong with line 219, why it says command not found. It's essentially taking that and thinking that it's an actual variable. Maybe it's just the way I wrote. No. In Bash, my variable names, as you can see here, my variable names could be this here. So what I can actually probably do is take this, and just because I move it out, shouldn't do anything special to it. But we're going to move it to the top. I sometimes what I like to do is make sure that I define variables and other things in the same place. Just to, in terms of my JavaScript background, I do snake case or camel case. I think this is snake. I think this is snake case. So it starts low, goes high, goes low, goes high again. So that's snake case. Maybe it's camel case. I don't remember. You guys can look that up if you need to. So right here, I'll use regex and define it at the top here, just so I can make it usable through the rest of the program. Because with Bash, you have to define all your variables that are going to be used below it. You have to define it before it's used, which is, I think, is like the same thing with most programming languages, to be honest. All right, so in this case, system ID, compare that to the regular expression regex. So it's the same thing, regex command not found. I don't know why. Command not found. I'm not sure why it's not evaluating that as an actual string as opposed to it's just something that's annoying me and I gotta fix it. Sorry. All right, regex. Oh, yeah. I hope it's not that simple. Wow, it is that simple. So spacing matters in when defining variables in Bash. So something like this, it should not have any space in between the assignment operator, which is the equal sign in this case. So that's the biggest thing there. And again, guys, I talk about this learning logic and then learning syntax. Once you learn the logic, the syntax usually kind of is a thing that's the hard part in these different languages, because something like this in JavaScript, not a big deal, but I'm not writing in JavaScript right now, so it is a big deal. All right, so let's clean this up. And one of the last things I want to do is add this to the rest of the E, and then I want to add this to the rest of the line here to make sure that it works. So we're going to add an OR operator, uncomment this line, add it to the end. So we're going to do OR operator and then add it to the end just to make sure that this it validates that string or validates against that regular expression. All right, cool. So system ID, a dash, that doesn't work. Dash a doesn't work. Dash a dot com doesn't work. A.com doesn't work. A.com doesn't work. Oh, that's not good. Let's see here. And that might be because, yeah, we might not need that. So that might be because of this regular expression here that we're comparing against. Yeah, we might not need that anymore. Because this says the only valid characters are 0 through 9, lowercase and uppercase A through Z, dashes and or dashes, periods, and underscores. Huh. And then we test here at the end to see if it matches, if the beginning or end of that line matches a matches a dash, or one of these characters here. All right, so I think we have to take this out here. All right. All right, so that's not the problem. Add it back in here. Regular expressions. So we might be able to get rid of some of this line here. Let's double up that, or let's have that line by itself and keep it as a good line. That's fine. And you see system ID being greater than 255 characters, They may not be a problem as well because of our regular expression. Actually, let's look at that regular expression. I think between 1 and 253 characters, it'll be okay. Yeah, so I think our regular expression will actually get rid of a lot of these other checks, which is cool. And that's nice when you're going through code and you're doing what they call refactoring. You're looking at your old code and finding ways to optimize it possibly and to actually change or maybe even add a new feature, but everything works the same or looks the same in terms of its front end uh, mechanics. But then on the back end, it doesn't, there's no problem with it, or on the back end, it's totally different in terms of the way it actually processes the data and strings or what have you. So in this case, greater than 255 characters, I could probably get rid of that. System with dashes where necessary, I can probably get rid of that. Um, and all I would have to do is keep just this. So I can replace three different, one, two, three, yeah, three different conditions with just one, because I'm using a regular expression that should actually validate my FQDNs. All right, Daniel Tucker says, sorry, I had to pause the stream for a sec. Uh, I prefer Bash, but most of, if not all, Linux, Unix-based systems at least have SH. True. So I try to stick with shell that's universal. Stick with shell that's universal. Yeah, that's totally understandable. And that's one of the things where it's like, it's good to learn these different languages, or these different these low-level languages, because we have all these different high-level languages that do garbage collecting and allow us to run processes a lot of it, or allow us to just write code and focus on what we want to actually achieve, and not deal with, okay, we have to clean out memory space or anything else, or get rid of pointers and floats and all this other stuff that that's like you usually have to deal with at C or something like that. Um, and with these low level languages, which, C is lower than even, I think, Bash, but with these low level rudimentary, or like crude languages, actually, is you can do a lot with them, but they require you to do a little bit more and actually add more logic into them. And then there's a lot of functions that are not built in, but they're actually lighter weight, and then they can run on multiple systems. So what Daniel Tucker has brought up here is that SH or shell is on most, if not all, Linux systems. Now, Bash is a little bit more ubiquitous, but in some cases you will not have that, especially on really cut down systems that don't have something like Bash, because even Bash is considered bloated in some cases, especially if you're working with smaller routers or devices. There are some cases where you won't actually be using something like Bash because it's not available. So you have to use something like SH, and then even like BusyBox or something like that. If you're back from the DDWRT days, in terms of if you had to deal with those routers. Right, back to it. But yeah, that's definitely a good point, and that's a definitely good mindset. I usually always teach adaptability in some way, shape, or form, in terms of adapting to your environment and do what's needed for that environment or with that environment itself. Okay. All right, so in this case, I got rid of three different conditions, and hopefully it can be done in this one. Let's see. All right. Nope. 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 All right, so that's not working properly, and I'm not sure why it's not working. Does valid IDs. Regular expression, system ID, not system ID to regex. Okay. So it's evaluating a regular expression. All right. shoot, it's getting close to. It's getting close to be pretty late, guys. But sometimes this is what you have to deal with. Like you want this to work. You want to make sure that it works and leave off quote unquote on a good note. But sometimes you just have to walk away from it. So let me just see if this works here. Right. So not even this works where it kind of worked before. A.com. S.com. All right. So this doesn't work even here. So I have a problem with my regular expression. And it's possible. All right. So I'm going to end it here. One thing I will say, and one of the reasons why I'm ending it is one, the time, and then two, there was like I don't know if it was an anecdotal study or a study done, but you ever have a situation where you're programming something and you don't, or you're trying to figure something out? It doesn't have to be a program, but you're trying to figure something out. Maybe you're engineering something and they say, hey, walk away, give your brain a break. Well, in actuality, what your brain is doing is trying to process that information in the background. And when you come back to that code or come back to that project, you just have an aha moment and you figured it out. What's actually happening is not because you took a rest at it and you're looking at it differently, is that your brain has actually put that in the background, and while you're doing something else you have that aha moment, but then when you go back to actually code it, then it actually starts working for you, or it comes to the foreground and runs that job for you again and says, oh, okay, boom, did you try this? And you're like, whoa, okay, wow, I had an epiphany, good thing I walked away, got to relax the mind. So that's kind of what I'm going to do here. I'm just going to walk away from it. This is something that I do want to work, but I also want to go ahead and work out. I'll probably veg out and watch some more Doom Eternal Ancient Gods gameplay. And that way I can relax a little bit, relax my mind, and get it off of this. It'll still be on the screen over here. I'll probably look at it here in a little bit before I do, go to sleep tonight. But sometimes you just have to just walk away and step away from something, give your mind a break, take a walk, maybe go pump some iron or something like that, or do some push-ups, and then get back to it. As I always say, if you're not taking what I say with a grain of salt, then you're low on sodium. Please do your research, look up anything that I say, come back to me in the next stream and say, hey, Mike, you're a total fucking idiot. This is the right answer. And I'll be like, oh, I agree with you, your mama. But, and then I'll go ahead and take that in and, go from there. But this has been a 2.5 hour stream, and I've done quite a bit already, and I don't want to be up until 5 o'clock again tonight. So I'll take my leave here. Guys, as always, thank you for those that have joined. Thank you for those that are actually watching on the playback. I hope you watch it at 2x and you're not making me take up 2.5 hours of your life. As always, thank you so much. Oh, Daniel Tucker, fresh eyes are always a good thing. I miss semicolons all the time. Yes, definitely semicolons have a big deal, or definitely big in JavaScript to a certain extent. In some cases, they're actually interpreted. Maddox, good night, dude. I appreciate you, brother, for sticking in there with us and everything like that. So, guys, have a nice one. I do wish you all the best, and be safe. Peace.